Hello there. What is going on, everyone? Today we are asking the question, should you pre-order Star Wars Shatterpoint? This core set is coming out this summer. It's already available for pre-order now. There are pre-order incentives. Is it worth it? Should you pre-order based on what we know right now? That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. I see a lot of people talking about this, a lot of headlines that are very kind of sometimes misleading, sometimes inflammatory, and I kind of wanted to approach this in a balanced type of question. I think there are multiple different points of view asking this question. I wanted to certainly weigh in and give you my 2 cents as well. This is going to be a big game. I think it's going to be a very, very popular game. I think it's going to make a very significant mark on the tabletop gaming impact world. And if you are a big fan of, miniatures games and a big fan of Star Wars, this may be something that you are already quite familiar with. I've got a lot of videos about Star Wars Shatterpoint already, so I'll put some links to some of them at the end of the video if you want to look and check out more. If you are new here to the channel, also a little admin stuff. If you're new here, we do giveaways. We talk about a lot of Star Wars tabletop games, and we're currently doing a $25 Amazon gift card giveaway, so all you have to do to enter to win that is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos letting me know. Let me know what your thoughts are on Shatterpoint, what your favorite character is, maybe somebody that you want to see show up in Star Wars Shatterpoint. That's what I want to hear from you guys. Let me know. Also, if you want to keep the discussion going, you can check out our Discord. There's links in the video description below. We're very family-friendly, gaming-oriented Discord. We talk a lot about Star Wars games like Star Wars Shatterpoint, Star Wars Legion, Star Wars Armada, Star Wars X-Wing, some games that aren't even Star Wars-centric. We got some Marvel Crisis Protocol discussion on their painting channels, all kinds of great ways to connect with your fellow tabletop gamers and grow the community there. So, and then there's other links on their Patreon, social media links, and all of that good stuff. So if you're interested in any of that, check the links in the video description below. But I want to hear from you guys on your thoughts on if you're going to be pre-ordering Star Wars Shatterpoint. So first off, I want to talk about the price of the core set because that's a hot button issue. It's $164 or $165 basically, $164.99, right? It's the most expensive core set for any of the the Star Wars games that we've seen so far. Now prices have been going up across the board, so even if you looked at like the Legion core set or the Marvel Crisis Protocols core set and a lot of these other games that have core sets, a lot of them have been around the $100 price point. X-Wing is going to be one of the outliers that has a very affordable core set, but you're also getting a lot less, whereas some of these games you're getting a lot more. And I think the price point is definitely something that's given people a lot of sticker shock. $170-ish after tax, 180 something after tax or whatever. And if you end up having to pay shipping from someplace, a lot of places will offer free shipping with larger purchases. Or if you're buying, pre-ordering from your local store, depending on where you're pre-ordering from, it's it can be very, very expensive. Not everybody can afford that, especially if you play multiple miniatures games already, as a lot of people do. What are some other miniatures games that you are playing? So for folks who are considering pre-ordering Shatterpoint or who've already done it, I want to know what other games you're already playing. Like, what is the background that you had that that drew you, that Shatterpoint said, hey, I also want to play this. Or if this is going to be your first miniatures game, I also want to hear about that as well. But, $164.99 might seem unreasonable because I think a lot of people say that price point for what is effectively a game, and say that's too much for just for a game, for a core set for a game. A lot of times a core set tends to be less than what you actually need, and so core sets sometimes imply that you're going to have to get even more stuff. The expansions, the 4-pack expansions for 4 more minis are about $50, and that's not a cheap price point for an expansion either, even though you're getting 4 miniatures in there as opposed to like 1 tank. It's just trooper miniatures, and the scale for these is a little bit larger, but it's not so large to really make a lot of folks feel very comfortable with that price point. So I want to give you my take on the cost and everything. While I recognize that the cost is very high, I think it's worth considering the number of miniatures you get in the Shatterpoint core set. You're getting 16 miniatures. Well, 16 bases. Some of the bases have multiple miniatures on there, like the B1 battle droids. But we're going to count a group of 3 B1s on a single base as one miniature for this. You're getting 16. If at $10 a miniature, that's $160 just for the miniatures in this base. That's $10 a miniature for the miniatures in this base. Well, it's like, I guess, $10 and like 25 cents or something like that, right? That's actually quite comparable to the initial release launch price of the Marvel Crisis Protocol core set, which was $100 and had 10 miniatures in there, $10 per miniature. Which and I didn't hear very many people complaining about the cost of the Marvel Crisis Protocol core set. And one reason for that is that, to play a tournament list, you needed 10 figures and 10 miniatures, and then you're going to build a list based on that. You might only use 5. So not only was it enough to be your complete army in that core set, it was also enough to play a full game versus somebody else if you did like all heroes versus villains or something like that. So you could play a fully complete standard point value game with just that Marvel Crisis Protocol core set. And the reason I bring up Marvel Crisis Protocol is I think there's a little bit of comparisons to be made. They're both games that were completely made by Atomic Mass Games. They're similar art style. Some of the movement tools and range tools look similar. The scale of the miniatures is similar. And I just imagine there's going to be even more similarities. While they're not the same game, I would expect there to be some crossover. So if you're a fan of one, I would guess that you're likely to be a fan of the other, which I think is also another reason to consider pre-ordering. Although you could flip the coin on that. If you hated the gameplay in Marvel Crisis Protocol, then you might not like Shatterpoint either. Now, I have not played this yet. I don't know. This is just conjecture on my point. But I think because of it looks like it's a game that's in a similar scale and has some similar aspects visually from what we've seen already, and made by the same designers, there's probably going to be a little bit of overlap. A lot of games by similar designers tend to have some overlap. But I also think, as far as the price point is concerned, that the amount of terrain that comes in Star Wars Shatterpoint's core set is something worth considering. There is an awful lot of terrain. There's actually more sprues for terrain than there are for miniatures. And you're getting more terrain in here than you got in the Marvel Crisis Protocol core set. I would wager that they probably toyed around with costing this even higher than $164.99. And sometimes a core set will end up being your best value based on what you get inside, because that's kind of the hook to get you in. And hopefully, some of the expansions and stuff will be, the things with the higher profit margins. And so if I were creating my own game, I would definitely consider even maybe taking a loss or breaking even on the core set, just so that that everybody you hook in, that the expansions are where you get your profit from. I imagine that's going to be the case here, because the expansions, while there are terrain-based expansions, you're not getting that bonus of, hey, it's $10 a mini, but you also get like 4 buildings worth of terrain in here for free. You get a pretty large amount of terrain, and we're going to look at that in some of the photos, and I think that's something that's worth considering. But there's another reason that you may want to think about pre-ordering, or maybe not. Ahsoka Tano, the Padawan version. Now, Ahsoka does come in the core set, but you're seeing Season 7, like teenage Ahsoka Jedi No More. This is the young adult version of Ahsoka, who has grown and is already like very accomplished, virtually Jedi Knight level, but she left the Jedi Order towards the end of Season 5 of the Clone Wars. Season 5? Yeah, Season 5. And then coming back to Season 7, you saw her, older, wiser, more experienced, still young, but not as young. Young adult Ahsoka. And that's the one from the core set. But so you weren't left with the Padawan version of Ahsoka Tano, the one that you see through the bulk of the Clone Wars. The big difference between these two is that the Ahsoka that you're going to get in the core set is a commander, and this Ahsoka is more of a lieutenant. Again, we don't know what those terms actually mean in full yet. We do have a little bit of an idea that they're going to fill different roles, and so they're going to be different characters What has been said is that this version of Ahsoka is a really good companion for Anakin Skywalker. So when you're doing your list building, you may want to swap out Rex for Padawan Ahsoka. So basically, somehow there'll be like Rex, needs a lieutenant, or sorry, Anakin needs a lieutenant. You can put Rex with him, or you can put Ahsoka with him, or maybe you can even put somebody else with him that's not as good, but fits your own personal, hey, I want to see Anakin and Cody, or something like that. You're going to have options somewhere along those lines, and we'll get more clarification as it kind of gets closer. But this is something that is supposed to be for free with pre-orders from game stores that are part of the Hobby Next program. This has been a divisive subject for a lot of people. Now, this is not and I gotta clarify this. This is not an exclusive to pre-orders. It's only an early release, and the big distinction there is that this is also going to come out in a future expansion. If you don't end up getting this version of Ahsoka, don't worry. That just means you're not going to have it today or on release day, right? But you will be able to get it because this is something that is also coming out with a regular release. We just don't know what it's coming out with, and we don't know when it's coming out. So that mystery is one of the, I think, incentives to get you to pre-order from a local game store that's part of the Hobby Next program. Now, there's a link to determine what's going to be in a Hobby Next program. I'll put a link to that in the video description below if you want to check and find a local Hobby Next approved store near you. That's a place that you can pre-order from to get your Ahsoka. That means a couple of things. For one, you should be, and definitely confirm with your local game store, like say, hey, if I pre-order from you, am I going to get this? See what they have to say. Maybe they can ask some questions. It's still kind of early in the pre-order cycle, so definitely talk to them. Don't just expect that you're going to get it. Like they may only get enough for people who asked for it. I don't know exactly all the specifics for that, but always check with your store and manage your own expectations. Second of all, you're also supporting a local game store, which is always a good thing. I know a lot of stores do appreciate pre-orders. It gives them a good idea on how much of a certain product to go ahead and order ahead of time. It gives them, I've talked to, game store managers over the years, and, lots of them, and they have a hard time trying to allocate shelf space for a lot of things. And so you definitely help out your local game store. And of course, if you're going to be playing there, I think you should definitely pay there. You should definitely support them. You got to support the places that you are that you're playing. It's just a good general practice thing to do. It's something I always encourage people to do. Now, that being said, some people aren't, maybe you're not a fan of Ahsoka, having two versions of Ahsoka. Maybe you're thinking, well, hey, I'm going to want to get everything anyway. And if she's coming out at some point in the future, is there, am I going to want to have two Ahsokas? Because I'll probably want to get everything else that comes with her. My guess is that she'll probably be part of a 4-pack. I don't think that they're going to be releasing individuals, because it seems like they're releasing characters in 4-packs for the most part. It seems like this one is just an extra one-off sort of thing. But so some folks don't really like that. And if you don't have a Hobby Next store near you, Hobby Next, affiliate, then that could obviously be something that maybe rubs you the wrong way and says, now I definitely don't want to pre-order because I get no incentive to pre-order. And I can understand that. Some folks like to pre-order, some folks don't. What I can say is there's good arguments to be made for both. And I usually prefer to pre-order because every once in a while there's a certain wave of products that either has some kind of problem or scarcity, or maybe a shipping container gets lost or whatever. I remember for Star Wars Legion, the Phase 2 clones never made it to my local game store. Never made it to any local game stores in my area. I think in all of Central Florida, we never got any Phase 2 clones. Now, I pre-ordered 2 of them from Asmodee. And those were the 2 that I got. Those are the only 2 I have to this day. I still have never seen a Phase 2 clone at any local game store in Orlando. Now, I did stop looking at a certain point in time, but I remember looking for months after their release. Had I not pre-ordered, I would have had to kind of end up going to eBay or paying, because they were inflated. They were pretty rare for a long. ARC Troopers also had that for a short period of time. So every once in a while, there will be some scarcity. So if it's something that you absolutely have to have and can't risk having to maybe rely on eBay or something like that as a fallback, then maybe it's a good idea to just lock it in with a pre-order, especially if it's like your favorite character. And I think there's a lot of people out there who Ahsoka might be their favorite character, so I think that that's something worth considering. Again, we still don't know a whole lot, which brings me to my third point. There's a whole lot we don't know about this game, and a lot of people are reluctant to pre-order for that purpose. We have not seen gameplay yet. We don't know how similar or dissimilar it will actually be from Marvel Crisis Protocol. There's a lot of gameplay details that I think a lot of people would like to know. I know very little. I can guess on some of it. We do know that there are attack dice and defense dice. That's a slightly different mechanic than Marvel Crisis Protocol has, although from a certain point of view, just because it's the same die doesn't mean that you're still rolling attack dice and still rolling defense dice. It's just the same die. Right. So like, I'm unsure just how different these games are going to be. We know elevation plays a more significant part in this game, and one of the tools appears to be an elevation tool. The terrain, again, a lot of this is all terrain you're getting in that core set. Lots of terrain, a really nice centerpiece worth of terrain that, again, and you're playing on a 3x3, so you don't even need that much terrain to actually make your 3x3 playmat come alive. So this, and maybe just a few extra pieces of scattered terrain will probably do it for a lot of your starter games. And if you want more, there are extra pieces of terrain available that aren't complete copies of what's going to be in the core set, although there is some overlap, like a building might, one part of a building may be duplicated in a terrain pack, but you're going to get other things there too. And I'll probably try to give you guys a good look at all of the terrain packs when this game does come out. So basically, the terrain is kind of helps put the value a little bit higher, although it's still at a high price point. But what a lot of people are really holding out for, I think, is gameplay. I think you want to see if the game is going to be fun, if it's going to be boring, if it's going to be, very, like, what age limit too? Is it going to be very, very simple to where, the kids can play? That could be a good thing for some folks. It might be a bad thing for some folks, right? Maybe you're looking for a very deep tactical game that has a lot of rules and is very complicated, and maybe you're looking for something like that. I have a feeling this one will probably be a little bit on the easier to learn side, although that doesn't mean it won't have depth. I feel when I play Marvel Crisis Protocol, for example, that it is a very easy game to pick up and teach someone, but it also tends to have some strategic depth, and at the end of the day, it's just a really fun game to play, and I have a feeling that Shatterpoint is going to end up being that really fun game to play. However, it also might depend on what you're looking for, because I'm also really curious about some of the details for list building about this game, and that's one of the things that might have me on the fence if I wasn't like already committed to, yes, I'm already going to pre-order this. It's 100% going to happen. Part of that is because I want to cover it. So even if it's a game that I'm not crazy about, I still want to be able to cover the launch and bring you guys all of that information. All right, so I was going to pre-order it anyway, but maybe I'm a little biased towards that side because I have a YouTube channel and because I cover Star Wars tabletop games. But everybody at home is not necessarily in the same position as me. So I tend to think, what are you guys going to go along with? What are you guys going to think as far as your pre-orders? I know a lot of you guys want to see the rules. I know a lot of you guys want to find out more about list building. Do I have to use the clone troopers? Can I run like heroes only, right? Also, it's worth considering, Legion just got a Spec Ops rule set. Oh, granted, it's a beta, but maybe if you're a Legion player, maybe that's going to, scratch that itch for that smaller tactical gameplay. Maybe this will be, less necessary for players who are already invested in Legion and now have new ways to play with their own miniatures. This may be something you're like, look, the gameplay's got to be exactly what I'm looking for. If not, I've got Legion over here, right? And I think that that's a really interesting thing because the games are kind of similar. They're hitting different size aspects and maybe even different play styles, but they're hitting some of the same sort of cinematic experiences. Legion is going to be a little bit more of like a company-sized skirmish, like a bigger battle, and this is going to be like a smaller battle, but they're not that different, right? Like I can run a very small, very few small activation count list in Legion, and and versus what might be one of the higher, activation counts here in Shatterpoint, if there is even such a thing, and I bet you they won't be that different from each other that people walking by in a game store would probably have to say, are these the same game or are they different? And so like there's, so I think the gameplay's got to sell a lot of people, and if you were interested, if you're one of those people that you really want to see the gameplay, well, you only have to wait until late March. Adepticon, they're going to unveil the gameplay. There will be some articles before that, so we're going to be learning stuff. We're seeing some posts on social media by Atomic Mass Games for Shatterpoint. A lot of it has really been focused on the physical components so far. What they've been trying to sell you on so far is the miniatures. Now, the miniatures look awesome, and I think that's something else worth considering if you are a fan of Star Wars miniatures. These look really cool. You're going to be able to also get certain models that aren't available yet, like Padawan Ahsoka Tano, right? She's not available in Legion yet. We are expecting her in Legion. They've talked about how she will be coming, but it looks like she's coming out here first. Other characters that we've already seen in the trailer, like Luminara or Clone Commandos, other really cool characters that a lot of people are wanting, you're going to be able to get miniatures for those, and you're going to be able to get them here. So if you're really into the hobby side of things, I think Shatterpoint's going to be a game that definitely has your attention, although I don't know if it means you need to pre-order. It's really up to you. I expect a lot of people are probably going to wait until we get the rules. I think pre-orders will probably double or even triple once Adepticon comes out and everybody gets a chance to see the rules. If you're going to be at Adepticon, you can try and get an in-person demo. If you are not, there will be people out there who are unfortunately, I can't make it to Adepticon this year. Otherwise, I would absolutely be covering it and getting demos and filming it and bringing it all to you guys. So what I'm going to have to do is try to watch, the different news feeds and get all of that information. Hopefully, not long after Adepticon, maybe get an early access review copies where I can actually get an unboxing for you guys and start doing some, a lot more content. Thumbs up, like the video if that's stuff that you would like to see here on the channel. Even if it's maybe a game that you're not interested in, hey, well, I'm still going to be bringing you coverage for it so you can see, oh, you know what? Maybe that's a game I like after all. Or, hey, you know what? That's a game I don't like. Good thing I didn't get that, right? Whatever your questions are, I'll be able to answer those. So I think that that's, there's definitely a lot of good things coming. But I want to kind of circle back to the original question, should you pre-order? I think the biggest reason to pre-order right now at a local store is for that Ahsoka, the early access to the Ahsoka model. I think that's probably the biggest main reason to pre-order. Outside of that, there's no real reason why you couldn't probably just wait. It's a good idea to help out your local game store. I don't anticipate there'll be too much of a product shortage with Shatterpoint, though. I mean, they're launching a brand new game. The core sets, at least, should be abundant and available for a long time. The price point is high, but you're getting so much in the core set that it does add up to still a pretty good value, considering the terrain that you're going to be getting and the number of miniatures. 16 miniatures in here. That's about $10 a miniature, plus all the free terrain. And then, of course, it is also a core set, so you're also getting your dice, movement tools, and all that other stuff. I know some folks aren't crazy about that price point, especially when, if everything is as we expect, you'll probably need a little more dice. That's my guess. Because I know for Marvel Crisis Protocol, I went and got some more dice. I like getting extra sets of movement tools and things like that. So if you have just one copy of the game and you want to play it with a loved one or a friend at the kitchen table or whatever, everybody can have their own tools. That's a cool thing. It's not entirely necessary, but it's a nice feature to have. And, of course, the expansions and the extra terrain pieces and all of that other stuff are things that are going to inflate that cost even more. So you can easily spend over $300 if you wanted to pre-order everything and then get the other I'm sure there will be more expansions announced at some point. We've heard about Mace Windu. We've seen Count Dooku is coming. We've seen Jango Fett. He's going to be in that Count Dooku pack. Obi-Wan Kenobi. We've seen Luminara. We've seen so many characters that are in that early teaser trailer. What else is going to be coming? The sky's the limit, right? I want to see Savage Opress in this game. That's somebody that I would love to see. Or Mother Talzin also. Maybe both of them, and maybe, oh man, maybe Mother Talzin as a leader, Savage Opress as a lieutenant, and 2 Night Sisters as the little minions or something like that. Wouldn't that be cool? It's a thought. Let me know some of your things of teams that you'd like to see. I think it could be pretty cool. All right, guys, that is going to do it for today's video. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, give the video a thumbs up, a like, a share, all that good stuff. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. And party on, dude. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are amazing.